The royal rings that led to breakups. A ring is supposed to be the beginning. For these women, it was the first warning sign they weren't allowed to see. 6 rings, 6 scandals, and not one of them ended the way the palace promised. The Sapphire and Diamond Ring. February 1981. A 19-year-old girl named Diana Spencer sat in front of a Garrard catalogue and pointed to a ring. 12 carats. A deep blue Ceylon sapphire ringed by 14 brilliant cut diamonds, set in 18-carat white gold. She chose it herself, not from a private royal vault, not from a bespoke commission carried out in whispered secrecy by the Crown's finest craftsmen, but from a catalogue that any member of the public could purchase from. The palace courtiers were horrified. They called it a commoner's ring. They called it nana-ish. They said it lacked the gravity of royalty. Diana wore it anyway. She wore it at Buckingham Palace on the day they announced the engagement, fingers knotted with nerves, Charles standing stiffly beside her. She wore it through 13 years of a marriage that unravelled in full public view, the affairs, the isolation, the despair documented with devastating honesty in Andrew Morton's 1992 biography. She wore it to charity galas and hospital visits and state dinners, while her husband telephoned another woman. She wore it as armour. When the divorce was finalised in 1996, she returned her HRH title, her place in the line of succession, and her future, but she kept the ring. She wore it until August 31st, 1997, the night she died in a tunnel in Paris. Prince William inherited it from her belongings. In 2010, he placed it on Catherine Middleton's finger. The ring that was called a disgrace, that broke the first rule of royal jewellery by being ordinary, now sits on the hand of the future Queen of England. It is currently housed in the most photographed marriage in the world, but the wound it originally sealed never truly healed. The sapphire endures. The marriage it was made for did not. The Cartier Emerald. October 27, 1936. King Edward VIII, ruler of the most powerful empire on earth, knelt before Wallis Simpson, an American woman, twice divorced, wholly unsuitable by every standard his family had erected over centuries, and presented her with a ring from Cartier. Nearly 20 carats of rectangular step-cut emerald, set in yellow gold with baguette diamond accents along the shoulders, precise and architectural, the kind of ring that does not whisper. It announces. Inside the band, he had engraved 4 words and a date. We are ours now, 27 times 36. Wallis Simpson wore a ring that should never have existed. The Church of England, of which the King was supreme governor, forbade the remarriage of divorced persons. Parliament threatened to resign en masse if Edward pursued the union. His mother, Queen Mary, refused to receive Wallis in her presence. His government made clear in language that left no ambiguity. The throne or the woman. Edward chose the woman. On December 11th, 1936, he broadcast his abdication to the nation, stepping away from the crown in a speech that lasted 8 minutes, and the British monarchy shuddered to its foundations. His brother, unprepared and unwilling, became King George VI. A shy, stammering man was forced onto a throne he had never sought because his brother could not remove a ring from a divorced American's finger. The couple married in June 1937 in France with fewer than 20 guests. The royals stayed away. Edward was given the title Duke of Windsor. Wallis was conspicuously denied the title Her Royal Highness, a deliberate lifelong slight that she never forgave. They lived in exile, moving between France and the Bahamas, charming the wrong people at the wrong parties. The Cartier Emerald was later reset. It sold at Sotheby's Geneva in 1987, the year after Wallis died, as part of the Windsor jewel auction, fetching a figure that would have made any king blush. The ring that broke a dynasty now belongs to a private collector, unseen, somewhere in the world. The Garrard ruby ring. Prince Andrew presented Sarah Ferguson with a ruby ring in 1986, designed by Garrard, the same crown jewellers who had made Diana's sapphire. The stone was a Burmese ruby, deep red and vivid, surrounded by a cluster of diamonds in a design specifically chosen to complement Sarah's copper-red hair. It was romantic, personal, thoughtful, everything a ring should be. The press adored it. The people adored her. They called her Fergie, and she laughed too loudly and ate too much and didn't walk like a princess. And none of it mattered because she was warm and real in a way the palace had forgotten how to be. Then came the photographs. In August 1992, the same summer Diana's marriage imploded, tabloid photographs surfaced of Sarah Ferguson poolside in the south of France, having her toes sucked by her financial advisor John Bryan while her daughters played nearby. The photographs were taken with a long lens and published without mercy. The Queen was shown them at Balmoral. Andrew and Sarah had already announced their separation earlier that year, but the images ended whatever quiet dignity the exit might have had. It became a rout. She had walked into the firm dressed in rubies and laughter, and she left with neither. The Garrard ruby ring was returned at the time of the 1996 divorce. It has not been publicly displayed or officially documented since. Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew have maintained a relationship as co-parents that defies all conventional understanding of divorce. They lived together at the Royal Lodge for years after separating. The ring exists somewhere in the royal inventory. The marriage it promised lasted a decade and ended in a photograph that the Queen never entirely forgave. The Ruby Daisy Ring. When Princess Margaret became engaged to photographer Anthony Armstrong Jones in 1960, she received a ring unlike anything the royal family had seen. A ruby centre stone set within a ring of cut diamonds arranged to form the petals of a daisy. It was bespoke, whimsical, unconventional. Armstrong Jones had designed it himself, working with jewellers Carrington and Company, choosing a ruby because Margaret loved colour, because he was an artist and refused to give her something generic, because everything about their union was a departure from protocol. The palace had already refused Margaret the man she truly loved. Group Captain Peter Townsend, a divorced man, deemed unacceptable in 1955. The ruby daisy was Margaret's second chance at happiness, and she wore it like a declaration. She wore it through a marriage that began with chemistry and crumbled under incompatibility. Armstrong Jones, made Earl of Snowdon upon their wedding, was brilliant, difficult, and reportedly cruel. Biographers have documented a relationship corroded by mutual infidelities, sharp-tongued arguments, and a growing contempt that neither bothered to conceal. He allegedly kept a list of reasons why he found her impossible. She sought comfort elsewhere. The couple separated in 1976 and divorced in 1978, making Princess Margaret the first senior member of the British royal family to divorce since Henry VIII, a distinction no one in her family wanted her to hold. The Queen, head of a Church of England that still viewed divorce as a failing of moral character, signed off on her sister's dissolution without public comment. The ruby daisy ring was kept by Margaret after the divorce. She wore it until her health declined in her later years. Upon her death in 2002, her jewellery collection was auctioned at Christie's London, where it raised over £13 million. The ruby daisy ring sold with the collection. It now resides in private hands. The daisy that was supposed to bloom forever was gone before she was. Princess Anne's sapphire ring. In May 1973, Captain Mark Phillips, Olympic gold medalist and celebrated equestrian, presented Princess Anne with a square-cut blue sapphire flanked by 2 diamonds, set in platinum, designed by Garrard. It was quiet and strong like the princess herself, no fuss, no excess, precisely what she would have wanted. They had met at a horse-riding event in 1968, bonded over equestrianism, and built a courtship the press could barely keep up with because Anne refused to perform for them. The ring was placed on her finger. Westminster Abbey, 500 million viewers, a bank holiday declared in their honour. The marriage disintegrated in the manner of all slow royal disasters, not in a single moment, but in a long accumulation of absences. By the early 1980s, they were living separately. In 1985, Captain Phillips fathered a child with a New Zealand art teacher named Heather Tonkin. The paternity was confirmed by DNA testing in 1991. By then, something far more layered had already emerged. In 1989, intimate letters written to Anne by Commander Timothy Lawrence, one of the Queen's own equerries, a man operating inside the palace, was stolen from Anne's briefcase and handed to the tabloids. The affair was confirmed. The separation announcement came in August 1989. The divorce was finalised in 1992. Anne did not keep the sapphire ring in public view after the separation. She married Timothy Lawrence in December 1992 in a private ceremony in Scotland. The Church of England still forbade the remarriage of divorces, so they travelled to Crathie Kirk near Balmoral with 30 guests and no fanfare. She received a second sapphire engagement ring from Lawrence, a cabochon stone in a simpler, more modern setting. The first ring, the Garrard Sapphire from Captain Phillips, has not been officially documented in royal records since the divorce. Mark Phillips was later confirmed to have had a secret daughter. He remarried twice. Anne never spoke of it publicly. The ring passed into silence with the marriage it sealed. Princess Madeleine of Sweden's ring. In 2013, Princess Madeleine of Sweden accepted a proposal from American attorney Christopher O'Neill and received a round-cut diamond solitaire set in a classic four-prong platinum setting. Elegant, conventional by Scandinavian royal standards, and notably chosen without the expectation of following the Swedish royal tradition of sapphires that had defined previous generations. O'Neill was an American. He refused to take Swedish citizenship. He refused a title. He declined to abandon his private business career. None of these were small refusals. The Swedish royal house had not experienced this level of deliberate departure from the terms of royal membership in living memory. What the ring truly represented was a princess who had already had her heart broken in spectacular fashion. Madeleine had been engaged previously to a Swedish lawyer, Jonas Bergström, whose infidelity was exposed in tabloids before the wedding. The engagement was ended publicly. She left Sweden, moved to New York, and rebuilt herself in private. When she met O'Neill and accepted his ring, it was not a traditional royal match. It was a personal one, made entirely on her own terms. She wore the ring as someone who understood exactly what a promise could cost. The ring and the marriage it initiated have brought Madeleine and Christopher largely outside the working royal sphere. They have lived in the United States and the United Kingdom, their children raised far from the Swedish court. In 2024, Princess Madeleine officially stepped back from royal duties. The ring that broke tradition by being chosen for love over protocol became the ring of a princess who chose her life over her title. It remains on her finger. Whether that is a triumph or a departure depends entirely on which side of the palace gate you're standing. Princess Caroline of Monaco's diamond ring. In 1977, Princess Caroline of Monaco, eldest daughter of Prince Rainier III and Hollywood icon Grace Kelly, agreed to marry Philippe Junot, a Parisian financier who was 16 years her senior, and whose reputation as a jet-set playboy had already alarmed her parents to the point of intervention. Grace Kelly, by then a sovereign princess, telephoned her sister in tears. They had sent Caroline to Ecuador, then to the Galapagos Islands, in increasingly desperate attempts to create distance between the couple. Nothing worked. Junot gave Caroline a diamond ring and she accepted. The palace announced the engagement and began the painful process of approving a match that every person of judgment in Monaco advised against. The wedding was held on June 29, 1978, in the courtyard of the Prince's Palace, with Ava Gardner, Cary Grant, and Frank Sinatra among the guests. A guest list that reflected Grace Kelly's Hollywood past more than any happy future. Caroline was 20 years old, Junot was 36. She wore Christian Dior and flowers in her hair. She wore the diamond ring that had cost her parents their peace of mind. The marriage lasted 2 years. After the divorce, Caroline admitted, "I have the feeling of being used." The Catholic Church did not grant an annulment of their marriage until 1992, more than a decade after the civil divorce, meaning Caroline spent 12 years in a form of ecclesiastical limbo, unable to remarry in the eyes of the Church while her first marriage haunted her paperwork. Grace Kelly died in 1982, never seeing her daughter find lasting happiness. The diamond ring from Junot has never been publicly documented or auctioned. It disappeared as quietly as he did from the pages of Monaco's history. Junot died in Madrid in January 2026, aged 85. Caroline has been married twice more. The ring he gave her left no trace, which is perhaps the most Monaco ending of all.